Hey dudes, it's Lerald. So this video is about a really good, extremely cheap farm strategy. It generates lots of gold, well over 1 million per hour in regular 8 mod tier 16 maps, and potentially more than double that in tier 16.5s. It also generates tons and tons of other valuable drops, so this isn't just a good gold farm strategy, it's a good farm strategy, period. I recorded a couple of random maps just to get more interesting footage than me purely spamming Mesa, and I got multiple Raw Divines in the first couple of maps, as well as some like Valdos boxes and valuable Scarabs. I made, I think, around 10 or 12 Divines in less than half an hour of just doing random 8 mod maps. Now I know there will be some comments saying that other gold farming strategies make more per hour. Sure, who cares? They also cost more. Or they're less profitable in terms of raw currency, or both. All Flame members of the Gilded cost over 2 Divines each. Horned Scarab of Bloodlines is about 1/3 of a Divine each, and Alva is slow. I know some people like Alva strategies. I like Alva, but I do not think she's good for gold per hour. This strategy costs less than 5 chaos per map in terms of Scarabs. The maps take 3 minutes each, and thanks to Delirium, you get a bare minimum of about 50 chaos profit per map, even if 0 Scarabs, div cards, or raw currency items drop. Now that's only like 4 or 5 Divines an hour. I'm not saying that's a good amount, but that's assuming you had negative 100% quantity and rarity. Like, in practice, we're pushing more like 20 plus Divines per hour, with potential to go a lot higher with good div card drops. And again, we're talking about less than 1 chaos per Scarab. So the main Scarab we're using in this strategy was my personal favorite in Settlers League. It's this one, Divination Scarab of Plenty. This is the wrong icon for it, but it is Divination Scarab of Plenty. That's right, Good and Plenty is back. Salute to the worst candy of all time. I don't understand how this keeps getting made. I assume it's just sold in bulk to old folks' homes. So this Scarab received a Gargantuan buff in Merc League, more than triple the value it had before. Just to kind of read that off before, previously it would add 3 packs of magic monsters that had 800% increased drop chance on divination cards. Now it's 6 to 10 packs of still magic monsters, and it's 1,000% increased chance to drop divination cards. So 25% increased chance to drop divination cards, roughly, like 25% more, 800 to 1,000, 25% more. And then as few as double the amount of packs and up to like 3.3 times the number of packs from before. So more than triple. Hell yes. Now, in terms of what this actually does, it just adds a bunch of magic packs into the maps that have a really high chance to drop divination cards that are native to that zone, native to that map area, and also drop a massive amount of gold. I've spent some time trying to kind of figure out what the deal is. Why do they drop so much gold? So much more than I can find from any other like normal farm strategy. And I'm honestly not sure. I think it probably has something to do with either culling the bad divination cards that they would drop and turning those into gold, which for some reason is just like a lot more gold than you get out of culling armor items. I think that makes the most sense. The alternative is just that these monsters have like a very high rarity value, and that's causing them to drop a ton of gold. I don't know. I don't care. The point is, there are a bunch of gold fountains. But of course there is more. Because we are blasting through thousands and thousands of monsters in every map, this is just a great strategy for anything related to killing monsters. I find the Nameless Seer really often while running this strategy. I think I found him in a couple of maps that I was trying to scry in order to do this strategy on maps other than just Mesa and Dunes. I think I found him in like a couple of maps in a few of those situations. I find lots of random reflections as well. I've leveled gems in my offhand very quickly. The point is, we are just shredding through tons of monsters. And I think that's enough selling this. Let's just go ahead and get into the strat now. But first, join our Discord, it's in the description, and say hello to me and Sunset. Alright, let's jump in game here and take a look at the Divination Scarab of Plenty with the correct icon for it. So this, like it says, adds 6 to 10 additional magic packs, and then they have 1,000% increased chance to drop divination cards. So I think that there is a very reasonable justification for just running 5 of this Scarab just on its own. You get 30 to 50 extra magic packs, but I think at some point there's some sort of, not diminishing returns, but like there's potential to add in another scaler in the form of Monstrous Lineage. So I played around with like all 3 of the different possible combinations of how many Monstrous Lineages you would run, 1, 2, or 0, and then, either 3, 4, 5 of the Plenty Scarabs. I feel like 4-in-1 kind of makes the most sense in terms of like maximizing the amount of div cards that you're getting. I think if for some reason one of these two Scarabs went up in price, then you could offset with the other one. I think they're all pretty close. Like the difference between 3-2 and 5-0 hasn't really been that significant to me in terms of gold per hour or XP per hour or anything like that. Now, one thing I do want to mention before I move on, just so I don't forget it, is that 8 mod maps are really important for this strategy. I did do some comparison running just like qualitied up 6 mod maps. I think all of these, okay, here's an example of one that's just like, 75% quantity, 21% monster pack size. And unsurprisingly, yeah, low pack size maps, low rarity maps wound up having way less gold come out of them per map than I was getting out of 8 mod maps, right? A 4 mod map or even a 6 mod map is going to generate half as much gold as an 8 mod map. So 8 mod maps are crucial. So in terms of the monsters themselves, the packs are just normal magic packs. There's not really anything fancy to them. When they die, they spawn a divination card looking hazard, and they're not killable. They shoot a combination of skills. They have like one very, very small, hard to see skill that kind of looks like they're throwing div cards at you. And then the other one that is the actual killer is the lightning balls. They throw lightning balls, and if there's any sort of extra projectile effects, like they scale off of map mods. So if there's like extra projectiles or increased attack speed or fizzes extra damage, these lightning balls can become very, very, very dangerous. They can kill you, they can kill your merc instantly. Now, these hazards that are like unkillable, they'll despawn after 10 to 15 seconds. They will kill you if you play around with them. I want to be clear about that. I am not kidding when I say they are more deadly than like Uber bosses, which is very weird because the magic packs that they're attached to, totally trivial, like not dangerous at all. So there is a learning curve to this strategy. You have to kill and move and kill and move. And I think this is why this is such a rewarding strategy for so cheap. It is very deadly. But there's an easy fix to this, right? You kill the packs, then you run away about a screen or two. That's it. They can't hit you from off screen, so there's zero threat. You just like wait 10 seconds. Not that I'm saying you would want to stand there and wait. I go clear other stuff and come back to them, but that is the point. I like to use domination shrines in this setup. I am playing a very fast build, a Pathfinder build, so I just simply come through, clear everything, move away, then come back once the hazards are gone. All right, so that's pretty much the Scarabs. I do want to mention one other Scarab, and that would be Divination Scarab of Pilfering. Now, I love Divination Scarab of Pilfering, and I think if you're thinking about maps, especially if you're scrying maps, you want to be thinking about maps that have like a pretty easy boss, like Dune's boss, Mesa boss are both relatively easy, and Dune's, I think in particular, is like kind of nicely laid out to have the boss like isolated. I guess Mesa is as well. So that's good, right? What it does is it makes all of the div cards that would drop in the map instead be collected up by the map boss, and then the map boss will drop them all and be empowered by them, but then duplicate them, right? So I've used this a couple of times in doing like Mesas and gotten like 8 or 10 fortunate cards, so that's like close to 1.5 divines out of that. Feels pretty great to get out of a single like 3.5 minute map. The issue is that there's something weird going on with the way that the Divination Scarabs of Plenty and the Divination Scarab of Pilfering work together. I've done Pilfering Scarab on just like a regular map, or the more normal way to do it is like an ambush strongbox map, and then hope that you get diviner strongboxes, and you'll get like 400 divination cards slapped onto the boss. I've had some maps where I got like 1 divination card, like four Scarabs of Plenty and 1 Pilfering, and I would have like 1 divination card on the boss, or 12 or 4 or 0 even. So something weird is going on there. I don't know exactly what the deal is. I know that the Pilfering Scarab, not to go too far afield here, but the Pilfering Scarab interacts very badly if you have multiple map bosses. So you never want to have multiple map bosses. You never want to have the map boss be twinned or anything like that. But I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe they were sending the div cards into the Mercenary on the map. I have no idea. All I know is it was really bugging me. I spent a while trying to bug test it and figure it out. Never could figure out what the hell was going on. So play with it at your own risk. You know, the Pilfering Scarabs are quite a bit more expensive than the Plenties. The Plenties are cheap, cheap, cheap. All right, now let's move over to the Atlas passive tree, which I do have that once again linked in the spreadsheet, bottom of the second page of the spreadsheet. Mirror Shrine, div card farm. That's what we're calling this gold strategy. I've recommended 3 and 2 of the Scarabs, but adjust accordingly. And here's what we're doing. It's shrines. I'm taking every single one of the shrine nodes, and then delirium mirrors. I'm taking almost all of the delirium nodes. I'm not taking compulsive hoarder or delusions of persecution, and the reason for this is, at least at the time of doing this, I'm not doing like super long maps like Strand or Tropical Island, or Tropical Island is actually my preferred one for doing deli mirror farming, where I'm trying to farm like 280 or 300 simulacrum splinters in a single map. I'm happy with just getting 100. However, if you're doing a full-size Mesa or Dunes or something and you're actually clearing it out and you're killing the boss to like get that extra value out of Imagined Pursuits, yeah, I would say I am still getting probably like 120 to 160 simulacrum splinters in every map, thanks to Screaming Whispers. Right now I'm selling simulacra pretty often for 80, 85 chaos each. I just sold like 40 of them earlier today. And yeah, you know, this is working out pretty well. So I'm just taking all of the deli nodes, like all of the nodes required to make deli mirror spawn in every single map. So like that's why this little point down here is there. Descent into Madness does make Delirium a little bit more dangerous and rewarding, and then Singular Entity just makes it kind of stick around a little longer, so it's easier to guarantee that you could still kill the boss while the Delirium Fog is still around. Then I'm doing all the normal stuff, right? I'm taking quantity around the middle here. I didn't take the middle 3 points for quant and rarity, specifically so that I could take some more of these Delirium nodes and also have the point here for Chiseled Perfection if you are chiseling and corrupting your own maps, but you could definitely drop that point and put it elsewhere if you want, just into more like Scarab nodes, like these small passives for Scarabs here. If you don't want to bother with as much Delirium stuff, you could definitely take the quant and rarity in the middle. I ultimately just took Delirium Mirrors because I didn't really feel like there was anything else that I liked nearly as much that was like quick and kinda smooth and easy. Everything else that I played around with in this strategy to try and use instead, you know, Beyond or something else like that, Harbingers, it just slowed me down a lot. And Delirium didn't, and then it also throws like, maybe like 50 chaos worth of Delirium Orbs and Simulacrum Splinters at me in every single map, maybe more than that. You know, so I feel like that's a pretty good return for having just kind of some ugly fog on the map and otherwise like not a lot of annoyance coming out of Delirium. So yeah, I think that's good. Other than that, we're taking all the map mod effect we possibly can, all the Scarab nodes we can afford, you know, bing, bang, boom, normal Atlas passive strategy. All right, so in terms of what we actually do, it's always the same, right? We're clearing out the maps. I actually do kind of like the boss rush in this strategy because we're not doing like super duper hardcore Delirium juicing. You know, if this were Tropical Island, I obviously wouldn't boss rush, but on Mesa, I just boss rush. On Dunes, sure, go for it. It's kind of up to you whether you want to or you want to kind of try and milk that Delirium reward, but I don't feel like boss rushing versus you know, killing the boss at the very end of the map actually has any impact on Imagined Pursuits. I don't really think it does. Either way, what we're looking for in terms of Eldritch Altar mods is like quantity and rarity, normal stuff there, div card duplication, obviously. And then, you know, if the player mod isn't very good from the Eldritch Altar, then you'll want to try and take the monster mods that give div cards to drop currency, div cards to drop other div cards, and then, you know, just raw currency is fine. Now, in terms of choosing the map you want to run, I think if we're not using any scrying, we're just doing base map, all of the different factors in play here, like if we go to Maps of Exile and look, right, layout, density, boss, and card is also a factor. I think there's a handful of different maps that are pretty good. Defiled Cathedrals, obviously, kind of universally beloved. I really prefer Mesa. It is a little bit further down here because it doesn't actually have that great of density, but it has a super easy boss. It's boss rushable. It drops a fortress map. Good layout, pretty good div cards. Now, playing around with Maps of Exile to really kind of figure out what you're looking for is something I highly recommend. I'll put this in I just put a link to this website in the description. You can play around with like how you value the layout, the density, the boss weight. And so this is kind of what I do to figure out, along with just like thinking about it, you know, going off of what maps I actually prefer myself. But I'll look at this and I'll compare like, okay, let's say the card weight is 0 and everything else is like 100, right? So we're just looking at like what we think is an all-around good map. Toxic Sewer, great, I love Toxic Sewer. Well, this is a great map with terrible div cards, so I'll find a map with great div cards and terrible everything else and scry it onto Toxic Sewer. And so we could just go like 1,000 card weight. All right, well, the best div card is probably, you know, I mean, it is Defiled Cathedral. Apothecary is just statistically better than like any other div card in terms of its value per map you run. So you could slap this onto Toxic Sewer, that could work. Right now I have Defiled Cathedral on Jungle Valley. I think for the sake of doing some stuff with Pilfering, I'm going to probably swap that onto Dunes. Like, so I'm going to put Defiled Cathedral onto Dunes, and then I'm going to put Mesa onto Jungle Valley, because that is a map where I hate killing the boss, and so I'd rather have a div card that's like not something I'm worried about trying to do about like a bunch of pilfering strategies on, you know, in order to get that. Now, I've also taken the Basilica map. This is one of the maps that I ran a whole bunch to scry because it's a really good map with a terrible boss. It's the original version of Innocence, the Act 5 version, so ultra long, slow, super awful boss. But I got a 7 years bad luck out of the very first or second pack I did in the first map of running Basilica to find the Nameless Seer, so that worked really well. And then I put that on Tropical Island because I like Tropical Island for Deli mirror farming. I am going to be doing some juiced Deli mirror farming down the line, and I thought Tropical Island seemed like the perfect map for that. Then Toxic Sewer, map I absolutely love, horrible div cards. Ivory Temple, map I think is horrible, great div cards, the Sephiroth and Icy Brothers. So yeah, let's go get some Icy Brothers and show them Sephiroth and put them in the Toxic Sewer. There you go. Great combo. I have one other one that I'm also working on, which is Grave Trough. According to Maps of Exile, this is the second best map, div card-wise. Terrible boss, I feel. Very slow to spawn. Terrible layout. Really just an awful map, but with great div cards. So, that one is right here, so I'm just going to be taking that and scrying it onto the Armory map, which is a great map. I love it. It drops Fortress. It has a lot of great stuff going for it, and also terrible div cards, you know? These are all worth like 1 to 3 chaos each, and they're not even common. So, yeah, but like Armory, pretty much a very little bit of twisting back and forth on the way to a very easy boss. So, you know, that is kind of my next project in terms of what I'm doing with scrying, and kind of what I would recommend playing around with this kind of thing and figuring out what map you want to scry, because like that is really essential for taking this strategy from being like a A- tier strategy into like an A+ S tier strategy. All right, so I think that pretty much covers it. I am really enjoying this strategy. It's completely insane to me just how cheap Divination Scarabs of Plenty are right now. They are less than a chaos each. I have bought thousands of them. If I'm looking at my Scarab tab right now, I have close to 2,000 of them. I had thousands of them during Settlers League when they were 1/3 as strong as they are now. So I'm a huge fan of this. There is definitely a learning curve to it. I will not argue that there isn't, but once you get the hang of handling this as a strategy, I think it is just so worth blasting because it is so cheap and so profitable, and I think there's a lot of potential with the right map and with the right scrying setup. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and say hello to me and Sunset if you haven't already. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.